Okay, hello there. I wasn't gonna record this at first, and then I decided to record it just because I decided to record it. Yeah. The most delusional comedian. I don't even know what's going on, but yeah.
The Room, Troll 2, Master of Disguise. These movies are considered so bad that they're good. But with comedy, you don't really get that. For the most part, you just get bad. And bad comedians are pretty easy to find. There are comedians who gross people out like Amy Schumer, comedians who steal jokes like Carlos Mencia, and then there's Brendan Schaub.
Dude, everything they eat, bean cheese, bean cheese, bean cheese, bean cheese. Like, what the hell, man? We're just gonna carb load year round?
I don't think that needs any explaining, but what if I told you that there was a comedian who is so bad that there's a large group of people who consider him to be one of the greatest comedians of all time?
Really?
Who tells one of the most legendary jokes that makes 0 sense.
I want to hear this.
He turns to the clerk and says to him, "My girlfriend just had an operation. She can only eat certain things." I look at him and I go, "Yeah, right. What did she have, a bong hit transplant?"
If you know what a bong hit transplant is, please leave me a comment. He is the only comedian in history that could be considered one of the worst and best at the exact same time. This is Tom Myers, a comedian.
Tom Myers, a comedian!
Tom Myers was born in Towson, Maryland in 1983, making him almost 40 years old. A proud former chairman of the Hartford County Young Democrats, a caller of Little League Baseball, and an absolute murderer on the stage. According to his own website, he's been doing shows that span 3 decades. Quote, Tom Myers is a comedian who tackles any subject, whether the topic is current events, social and political issues, or a topic other comedians would not even approach.
Really?
This past November, we legalized weed. Weed is going to be legal in Maryland, and I'm happy about that because that means the competition will drive down the price of heroin.
Bro, what the hell?
Tom's not afraid to make you laugh about it using a straight-talking, no-holds-barred manner. Tom believes that he's a vicious comedian, and if you're a sensitive snowflake, then too bad. According to Tom, his words are weapons. The subjects he talks about, other comedians wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. He even has an album called Words of Mass Destruction.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you have any big supporters of Schwarzenegger in here? He really doesn't make any sense because whenever he makes a speech, he always goes up, he's going to talk about how he's going to improve the state of California. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger going to take care of the state of California with the head of Detective John Kimball. I've got the headache.
You know what's funny? You know what's making me laugh about this is that you will say this shit and then the room would be dead silence. Like nobody reacts at all, and I find that hilarious.
Right now, but it's not a tumor.
So what is Tom's bread and butter? Well, I'm warning you, it's pretty spicy. Stuff like Obama-era US politics, the functionality of a GPS, weed, and commuting in the DC metropolitan area. There's a story that Tom Myers was at EJ's Landing doing a bit about how the Baltimore Orioles suck. 2 guys get up to leave, assumedly out of boredom, and Tom says, "Guess that's too much for you, huh?" I mean, these are the kind of vicious jokes we're dealing with. Before we continue, I just want to talk about today's sponsor, Rocket Money. I recently got a PS5. What could have helped and it makes rocketmoney.com/ghostgum or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with Rocket Money Premium. That's rocketmoney.com/ghostgum to get started for free. Tom has been doing comedy for well over 20 years now and has recorded multiple comedy albums with names like the previously mentioned Words of Mass Destruction, Pitchforks, Torches, and Other Random Thoughts, and most recently, Make America Innate Again, which if you're an English major would know that makes no sense. But that's okay because most of Tom's jokes make no sense. He knows how to structure a joke, but the punchlines and setups are just like, what?
I love studying history. My favorite piece of history to study was the American Revolution. I liked back then that people were able to grow pot, make stuff out of pot, and get away with it. Yeah, the ones who are really with me right now are going, I'd applaud, I just don't feel like lifting my fucking arms, dude.
Tom Myers initially made his name in the local Maryland comedy scene by playing open mics. And I use "made his name" very loosely because honestly, nobody really knew who Tom was. Most people just knew him as the guy who would sometimes be at comedy shows and bomb most of the time. This is where he would meet a young, drunk comedian named Nick Mullen, who he'd have a brief interaction with. According to both of their stories, Nick asked Tom to buy him a drink, and Tom said no. This sparked a feud between them that would go on to ignite Tom's career.
I showed up.
Hey, yo, buy me a drink. Nah. My career starts going crazy. That's crazy.
I went up to Tom. I was like, "You got drink tickets?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "I just have like a food tab." I'm like, "Well, can you like get me a drink on your food tab since I came up here and I'm not getting paid?" I like went up there to mock him.
Of course, yes.
And he was like, "Nah, sorry." He's like, "Any of the money I made for the show, I had to pay for Ron Bender's bus ticket up here." And Tom realized I was making fun of him. He tried to like shame me for like, "Oh yeah, remember when you asked me for drinks at the show because you're a fucking degenerate alcoholic?"
Yeah.
The truth is, you're not the same person that you were back then.
Man, she called you a bitch. That's crazy.
Drinks for free.
Apparently after Tom
Bro, I don't know where
said
that came from.
Nick went on stage and made fun of Tom on the spot right before him.
I remember the one thing you said was like, because we were in Bel Air, Maryland, and you were like, what if in Bel Air in LA there's a not shitty comedian named Tom Myers recording his album? And then it's like, no, it's time for Tom Myers.
Yeah, and the nicer Bel Air.
Yeah.
The one people think about, there's a guy named Tom Myers doing comedy who's like really good at comedy.
Yeah, that's what you said. Really good. Yeah.
Funnily enough, Nick would actually go on to have a very successful career, making a big name for himself in the New York comedy scene. But by far the most successful thing in his career was starting the podcast Come Town. Come Town was one of the most beloved podcasts on the internet, and it's responsible for ruining humor for an entire generation of men. The show, which started as a political podcast, slowly turned into a podcast in which they'd talk about stuff in a very authentic and real way. Also, discuss being gay. Nick would tell stories about Tom and how they would attend Tom's shows, including his album, Pitchforks, Torches, and Other Random Thoughts, where you can hear Stav heckling him in the background.
I finally got this. I finally caved and got a smartphone, so I've been dragged kicking and screaming into the year 2007. So. Okay, some people are good at math, but, you know, we'll go ahead and we'll deal with that.
They'd make constant references to Tom's killer material while also making fun of him, broadcasting it to their audience and blowing up Tom's spot. There's an hour-long compilation of them making fun of Tom Myers on YouTube. Keep in mind, before this, nobody really knew about Tom outside of a small group of comedy enjoyers in Maryland. Come Town was a huge podcast with a hardcore following. So predictably, the listeners found Tom on social media after he was mentioned, leading Tom to believe Nick sent his rabid fan base on him because he hates Tom. Tom said the reason Nick hates him is because Tom wouldn't buy him a drink all those years ago, while Nick denies ever being mean to him.
He's mad at me, and then people are like being mean to Tom, and it's like I've never been mean to Tom. The only thing I've ever done
been mean to Tom.
is publicly
exclusively been mean to Tom. On the podcast, in person, at that show that you opened for him and mocked him 6 years ago.
Despite Tom likely getting brutally harassed, this was probably the best thing that could have happened to him because Tom's humor is so unique. It's really unlike anything I've ever seen. Every joke he tells needs to be unpacked because they make zero sense.
There's signs out my way that say senior citizen crossing. That's a stupid sign to put up. Senior citizens do a lot less damage to the front of your car than deer. So I'm told.
As people started to dig into Tom's archive, they started to kind of enjoy him in an ironic way. It's honestly great anti-comedy. He went from working at 7-Eleven and doing local open mic gigs to being sort of a niche micro-celebrity. Actually, when I put it like that, it sounds like a downgrade. He started to develop this cult anti-following that was completely enamored with him. Ironically, he even had interactions with pretty big comedians like Shane Gillis, Tim Dillon, and Louis J. Gomez.
And they announced that I was coming to Magoobies, and Tom fucking smashed me on the comments. He was like, I hope you guys have Chinese food.
Whoa!
No, this is what I love about Tom is that like it's schizophrenic because it doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? So Chinese people are gonna come to the show, even though he's racist against Chinese people? It doesn't make any sense.
So then I got to show we listened, dude, on the drive back from Pittsburgh this past week. We listened to "Make America Great Again."
Yeah,
the whole way, dude.
Amazing.
The whole way through. It's fucking crazy, dude.
Imagine going from being a small open micer to hanging out with some of the most poppin' comedians in the world. Tom would also use his Twitter to eviscerate comics that might have slighted him, as well as take shots at Trump and other political figures. But Tom has hit this weird spot that no other comic has. He's so unfunny, while simultaneously lacking any self-awareness, that he's an unintentional genius.
You're a goddamn genius.
If that makes sense. His jokes lack any sort of humor. That's why they're funny. While at the same time, he doesn't understand that. He doesn't know why he's funny. If Tom had any self-awareness and told bad jokes on purpose, he'd probably lose his fans. The fact that he has no idea of any of this makes it hilarious.
Interesting.
Brendan Schaub is funny because of the community that orbits him. Amy Schumer isn't funny. Tom Myers is hilarious because the appropriate response to all of his jokes are, what? Or, huh?
Me, I'm an Obama person, but part of me kind of wants Hillary Clinton to take the Oval Office. No, okay, hear me out. What's the first thing Hillary Clinton's gonna do when she gets in office? Get back, no. Get back at Bill for all the shit he pulled. That's why I'm gonna apply to be an intern.
That's crazy. So is he saying he's gonna be fucking it?
Joke, bong hit transplant. It is nothing. Bruh. It doesn't make any sense. What the fuck is a bong hit transplant? Does anybody know?
I look at him and I go, yeah, right. What, did you have a bong hit transplant? That guy's in here right now, isn't he? Oh, shit.
It's mind-blowing. I don't understand how his brain works, and I don't want to. I think it's perfect the way it is. I genuinely recommend listening to his albums. You have to pause after every joke to try and figure out what he's trying to say, or even if he's telling a joke, but it's worth it. In a world right now where comics try to live the lifestyles of rappers, it's refreshing to have a comic who works at a Mexican restaurant, lives with his parents, and sucks at comedy.
How come you suck?
But sucks so bad.
Do they try to be rappers? I don't know about that. I never knew about that. It's crazy how he's still funny, but he's funny for being terrible. Like Tom goes into a hyperbolic time chamber to write his jokes, and when he comes out 5 years later, he realizes it was just a normal closet. Bro. Bro. Okay, then that's funny, bro. But yeah, like, subscribe. See you guys later. Hope you have a good day or night, and bye.